What you say is important, but it's not nearly as important as being interesting. Not even interesting, just not boring. We're setting the bar pretty low here. Just don't bore your audience. Okay, so there's 4 things. The first thing is your voice is not loud enough. Oop, I'm not spelling enough right. Hold on. Your voice is not loud enough. Now, I'm not asking you to have a giant, obnoxious voice all the time, because we all know that one person who their voice is just annoying, right? Because it's always loud all the time, right? I'm not asking you to do that. But I am asking you to develop a public speaker voice that you can turn on. Think of it like a tool in your toolbox. You can take it out when you want. Here's the key. The loudness of your voice should be a choice. Most people, when they speak, you get the real sense that they don't have a choice. Their only volume is quiet, and they can't have a louder voice. People should get the sense when you're speaking that you could have a loud voice if you wanted to, but if you have a quiet voice right now, you're just choosing not to have a loud voice. That's the first thing we got to work on, is just be slightly loud, just be slightly louder than you normally are. Second thing, you do not pause, pardon my terrible penmanship, by the way, enough. You do not pause enough. You rush through your words. And I mentioned this a few minutes ago, but the reason you rush through your words is because you can't handle tension. Tension is very different from tenseness. I want to make a distinction here. Tenseness is always bad. Tenseness arises in your body as a reaction to fear. So you'll notice if I'm tense around you, I'll probably cross my arms to shield my vital organs from you, the softest part of my front. I'll shield myself off from you. If I'm tense, I won't be moving my limbs very much. If I'm tense, I'll probably be quieter because I don't feel comfortable taking up space, sonic space. So that's tenseness. Tension is very different. You actually want tension as a public speaker. Not too much, not too little, but you want the right amount of tension. Tension is what you create with your pauses. But they have to be intentional pauses. Here's the key. Many of us will pause. In fact, the only time we pause really is when we forget what to say. And I've done this before, right? You freeze up, and you can tell when somebody has reached the end of the road as far as their train of thought is concerned, because you see a slight terror in their eyes, right? I've been there. I can relate to that. But you can tell the difference between that and a pause that is intentional, where there's actual rhetorical weight behind the pause. So we want to get comfortable with that kind of pause. I can't understate the importance of pauses. This is so fundamentally important. And most speakers don't do this. You go to a Toastmasters group, they're not pausing enough. They're rushing through their words because they're too anxious. Okay, number 3. Oop, here we go. My marker's dying. Are too tense. Kind of what I said before. You are too tense. This shows up principally in your body language. What I mentioned before was crossing your arms, right? There's many other variants of this. One way that we exhibit tenseness is through fidgets, through self-pacifying gestures, like this. Anytime you touch your neck, touch your forehead. Anytime you do this, that's a self-pacifying gesture. A book I would highly recommend, by the way, if you're taking notes, is What Every Body is Saying by Joe Navarro. He's an ex-FBI agent, I guess, and he was tasked with interviewing people and recognizing subtle nonverbal cues in how they speak and being able to detect whether the person's lying or not based on those cues. You give off so many cues you're not even aware of non-verbally. Even the direction that your feet are pointing. You'll notice that my feet are usually pointing towards you, and that's not intentional. I don't do that consciously, but if your feet are pointing away from somebody, that's a subtle nonverbal cue that you don't really like them, that you're on your way out, you want to leave, right? So I'm always engaging my audience directly, head on. I'm not hiding away from my audience. And my body language always reflects that. My palms are usually facing my audience or at my side. I'm not doing this. There are all these little subtle nonverbal cues. So that book is actually really great.
I know.
What's that?
Just I was like, feeling how am I sitting now?
Yeah, well, here's the key. You don't want to become too self-conscious about it to the point where you become neurotic, right? So there's a happy middle ground between neurotically concerned about body language and totally oblivious and unaware of body language, right? You want to just be aware of it. Okay, and here's the fourth one. There's only 4. You are not express. This is very hard to write diagonal like this. Enough. I gotta practice this.
It's your doctor handwriting.
What's that?
It's your doctor handwriting.
Doctor handwriting. Yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, barely legible. You are not expressive enough. Okay, so when you're speaking, let's start with tonality. Your highs should be higher, your lows should be lower. High should be higher, low should be lower. Your loud should be louder, your quiet should be quieter. Your fast should be faster, your slows should be slower than everyday speech. That's the key. You don't do this all the time. But you're not varying things enough. You need to stretch your expressivity out beyond normal speech.